a year ago, Netflix announced it was happy with the performance of its recently released Shadow and Bone, and season 2 is happening sooner or later. The new season was announced during Netflix Geeked Week, and rather than just the usual 3-line statement, fans were treated to a video from the cast delivering the news in person. Spoiler alert, I'll see you in season 2! Coming from the infamous Darkling Ben Barnes was awesome to hear. A tweet from the showrunner has even given us hope that the next season will come sooner than usual. So while we are waiting for the new episodes to arrive, let's have some fun with season 1 and explore what you might have missed and why. Fun fact number 1. Character names. Character naming is one of the most exciting things in shows like Shadow and Bone. They often have significance and meaning that will define characters' actions to come. However, they can also miss the mark. Shadow and Bone has its own universe and majority of the action takes place in Ravka, which is the main kingdom of the series. It is where most of the Grisha and a number of the main characters of the series are from, including Alina, Mal and General Kirigan. We know from the book authors' interviews that this imaginary country was largely based on Tsarist Russia, and as such, we looked into character names from this standpoint. Let's start with Alina Starkova. In Russia, there is a difference between masculine and feminine last names, so the correct way to say her last name would be Starkova. Fun fact is that main character Alina, a girl, has masculine last name. Do you think it was intended as such, since she is the most powerful Grisha to stand against the Darkling? The name Alina itself can be interpreted by Russians as coming from Greek, which would put her as angelic messenger, or from Arabic, which will mean loyal. From Russian standpoint, Alina would come from the beautiful color and would be considered as the most beautiful girl. Which name interpretation do you like the most? Now let's get to a funny name fluke. If you noticed, one of the main character names was Morozova, also known as the Bonesmith. He was one of the earliest and most powerful Grisha to have ever existed. Using the bones of his fingers, he created mystical, legendarily rare animals. Those animals were the most powerful amplifiers ever known to Grisha kind, largely considered a myth. In the books, he is also known as Sankt Ilya in chains. Okay, now that you know about the last names and genders, it will be easy to notice that Morozova is a female last name. The correct way to address a male character would be Morozov. It is kind of cool that one of the most powerful male Grishas had feminine last name, don't you think? Now, Grisha is a perfect naming convention. As we know, Grishas are the people who have the ability to tap into and practice the small science that most people would just call magic. Name works for two amazing reasons. On one hand, this name is short for both masculine Grigori and feminine Grigoria. Both are called Grisha in Russian language for short, so it can be attributed to both genders in Russia. On the other hand, let us talk about Grigori Grisha Rasputin, a famous historic figure. Now I'm going to present my crazy theory. From what I know about Russian history, one of the most common myths associated with Rasputin is that using magical means he could heal Prince Alexei, who had hemophilia. So it is only appropriate to call magic users Grishas. I know it might sound crazy, but it works and makes sense to the Slavic person familiar with the fables. Fun fact number 2. Historical figures in Shadow and Bone. Now that we mentioned Rasputin, I really want to bring up fun fact number 2. Historical figures that might have been portrayed in the series. It is rumored that the character of the Apparat, a priest and a spiritual advisor to the King Pyotr, is based on the real-life historical figure of Rasputin. In the TV series, Apparat is a fanatical religious zealot obsessed with Alina and her powers, and he believes her to be a living saint. It is more of a myth in my opinion. In reality, Rasputin has never been a priest or a monk. In fact, there were a lot of protests against him wearing and using a cross in the manner of a minister or a monk. Rasputin openly admitted that he did not like the church life. Furthermore, Rasputin was not a singular spiritual advisor for the rulers of Russian Empire. He was tolerated due to the fact that he could alleviate Tsar-San's pain. So if TV series based a parade character on Rasputin, they totally missed the mark. He was a clever, worldly man rather than a mysterious monk. Oprichnik and Oprichniki in Shadow and Bone are the Darkling's personal guard and elite soldiers. In Russia, Oprichniki were created during the reign of Ivan the Terrible, so we already can see where this is going if nothing else gave it away. Ivan the Terrible planned to form the chosen thousand from the best children of the boyars, Russian feudal barons, during the military reform in the Russian state. It was to be based on representatives of the most noble families and descendants of the Appanage princes. Thousands were supposed to perform important and diverse commanding functions, in particular to be appointed by regimental commanders and heads, according to the idea of the Tsar. The guardsmen dressed in black clothes, similar to those of a monk. Or, as one of the historians tells us, the guardsmen had to wear black kaftans and hats, and at the quiver were the arrows hidden, something like a brush or a broomstick. By this, everyone recognized the guardsmen. There is a lot of bad connotation associated with the term in Russian history, so it is cool how we see it repeated in the Shadow and Bone. So I'd like to wrap things up for now and invite you to continue watching and listening to my theories in the second video I am going to share in a few days. It has the remaining fun facts number 3, 4 and 5 and has to do with Russian language, mythology and geographical locations which have influenced the storyline of the series. Thanks for listening and hit like, subscribe if you enjoyed this.